All right, then you go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I think we're live, Diana.
Hello.
Help us let us know that you're here. We're just getting started. And Diana, thank you for helping out with Instagram. And we'll get that going here in just a minute as Diana gets that set up. I'm Coach Elise, and Coach Diana is with me today. And we're talking about a great subject. I think one that can be a little bit controversial at times. His needs, my needs, our needs, balancing self care and partnership. And I was thinking, and Diana and I were talking a little bit last night about this topic. And it, again, like I said, it can be somewhat of a controversial topic because there was a book written about it maybe 25 years ago or so, His Needs, My Needs, right? And it got back into maybe and foolproofing your marriage, affair proofing your marriage. And so if our needs were met, then we would be less likely or less prone to wander from the relationship. And I think that that's kind of proven out not to be so, that we can certainly meet someone's needs and they can still, leave the relationship. And so what I wanted to do, Diana, today a little bit is to first just kind of talk about this needs place.
Okay.
And like, how do we define a need? Like, what, for those of there's 35 of you on here. And just remember that this is Leslie's public page. I'm a little tongue tied this morning. And so we want you to be cautious and aware of that. This is not a private page. And so that, your comments can be seen by the public. And so we definitely want you to join in the chat with us, but be cautious. So let's continue this. My first question is basically, what is a need? And how does it differ from a want and a desire? But let's just kind of define a need. And Diana and I are also licensed professional counselors, along with being coaches for Leslie. And so one of the things that we learned in graduate school was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Do you remember that, Diana? I'm not going to give you a test about it, but I know you know it probably pretty well. And so I looked it up last night to just kind of as a refresher. And I think it kind of helps us. And there are higher needs. We have higher needs, but kind of what our basic needs are. Do you want to take 2 seconds and kind of go through that structure a little bit, or I can keep going with that? Kind of.
About Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Is that what you want me to go through?
Yeah, just kind of just a flight. Just a quick 3 seconds, 30 seconds of what that looks like and how important, kind of are certainly the basic needs being that are important.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah. Well, Maslow developed this hierarchy of needs, and the 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 bottom tier really is, I think, of physical needs, physiological needs, food,
Right,
water, rest, right? And
right,
then we move up the ladder. So, I mean, you think about third world countries, sometimes people, especially those that we know that are in, what do we call those camps?
I don't know.
Refugee camps.
Yes,
They're unfortunately, people who live in refugee camps don't get to the top hierarchy of those needs.
right,
Their basic need is for food and shelter,
right,
warmth and rest, right?
right,
And often in refugee camps, there's no safety, which is the next tier.
right.
And so when our physiological needs are met, that's primary. Then we have to move up the hierarchy to safety needs.
Hmm.
And I think of that in terms of, my needs, his needs, balancing our needs. So we think about safety needs in terms of security and safety. But as you know, what we do here, Elise, we're also going to include emotional safety,
Sure.
relational safety,
You bet.
right? And security in knowing that, I have your back, you have my back, and we can safely rest in one another. And so then these are the hierarchy of needs is developed so that we grow in terms of reaching the top of the pyramid. If we
Right.
don't have the basic needs met, we can't reach the top
Right.
tier. And so then we move, if we have safety, and this is great, really, even for talking about relationships, if
Yes.
we have those safety needs met, then we can achieve belonging and love, right? We can go toward a more intimate relationship and friends, right?
Right.
And many of us develop intimate relationships and friendships without having safety needs met. That's like a no no, red flag. Okay. And so then we go up the ladder, and if we have belonging and love, then we can go to having more a sense of feelings of accomplishment, right? And and prestige in our life, right? They have defined these in different ways. And then there's the top tier, which is really like if I'm in a relationship, I think if we're in a loving relationship and a good partnership with someone, we have the basic needs met. We've got food and shelter. We are secure and safe in our relationship with each other. We feel like we belong. We have secure attachment with one another, and we feel then we that develops strong feelings of self-esteem and goodness about ourselves. Right? It just emanates from who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where we reach the top tier of being able to really what's called self-actualization.
Right.
That's where we can live out our full potential and live to flourishing.
Right.
And so that's just kind of, I thought, maybe more basic than you, or more
Oh,
descriptive than you wanted.
that was no, that was actually awesome. I think if you'd have put me on the spot like that, I really, I don't think I'd have come up with this quite as clean and clear as you did. And so, thank you. And so, when we talk about our own needs, I wanted to be kind of clear about we do have needs, and but they are different from kind of wants and desires. And so unfortunately what happens so often in relationships, when some basic needs of like safety aren't met, then we kind of get in this, all of a sudden we get in this somewhat entitlement needs meeting relationship rather than desire and want. I want you, I desire you, but I don't necessarily need you. Right. There's a roof over my head. I have clean air. I mean, clean water, clean air, and food on my table. And so those basic needs have been met. And so I actually can engage in relationship. But somehow the word needs have been kind of misapplied or misused to you have to kind of fulfill all my desires and wants. And that's why I kind of wanted to take just a quick little minute to kind of go over the structure of what really needs look like. And so that maybe we can, especially as we talk about uh, our next upcoming class, which is walking in core strength, is that when we have a really weak core, when we don't know who we are, we don't have a strong sense of self. We don't know what our likes and dislikes, our values, kind of who in essence we are, we're going to naturally gravitate to someone who probably is somewhat stronger than us, who maybe has a little stronger sense of self. And then we look to them to say, hey, I need you to do this for me. I need you to be this for me. I need you. And then we get in this, needs meeting relationship rather than a relationship of desire and want. And so I think this his needs, my needs, and kind of women. Then it kind of morphed into a book, Love and Respect, in which we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater completely. I'm certain that there are some things in both of those books that are good and good to know and kind, but in general, it becomes a quid pro quo relationship, right? I will if you will. I won't if you won't, right? And there's all these demands on the relationship. And so, one of the things that we really want to invite you to is Walking in Core Strength, the class that's upcoming. And might I say, there are so few spots left. If you are thinking about it at all, don't hesitate any further. If you go on the website, you'll see how many classes are sold out. And so we just have just a few spots left, and we love for you to join us, because this is a place that you can really develop a stronger sense of self, of who you are, beginning to walk in truth and reality, and committed to the Holy Spirit, in knowing and really looking for our needs being met by our Lord. And so, and then, really taking full responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah.
even when others don't take responsibility for themselves, and having a level of empathy in our relationships as well, without enabling others, which we tend to be people pleasers, and so we start enabling bad behavior. And so, anyway, this core strength is going to be such a beautiful group for you all to say, hey, you know what? I can take care of me. If something, in essence, you all hear this all the time. I'm going to be okay. Leslie's webinar. I'm going to be okay if you're not okay because I know who I am. Now, we naturally form an interdependence with one another in good, close, healthy relationships. And so there is some level of dependence upon my spouse, and he's a larger breadwinner, and so but if something should happen to my spouse or us relationally, would I be okay? Yeah. But if I didn't have a strong core and know who I was, that would be hard, right? Thus, the kind of the collapse we get into this. You must do this in order for me to be okay. I must do that in order for you to be okay, and it really begins to taint the relationship. What are some of your thoughts around that, Diana, or other thoughts when we think about the title of this uh, talk
Well,
today?
I think Tamara, I don't know if it's Tamara, I think it's Tamara. So sorry if I get your name wrong, but she said something really awesome in the chat. I just had an aha already. My psychological and safety needs have been met, just not by me. I felt unsuccessful because these needs aren't being met by me. So I think that's a really important point to bring out, that
Mhm.
we're adults now, and we talk about the hierarchy of needs in terms of, like, do we get those when we're a kid, and how do we grow? But now we have agency as adults, and so as we're thinking about our needs, it's really good to reflect on what am I in control of in terms of getting my needs met, instead of waiting for others to show up and meet them for me, right?
Right. Because now, yes, because then we get in this demand relationship. You must meet my needs, and certainly, I know that there are here on our group. We have 80 people kind of watching us. That, you know, it's possible that some of not likely that your very bottom, like your physical needs are not met, but oftentimes the safety needs are not met. Someone is not paying the bills as they should. Someone is not creating safety in the home as they should. And so how do we approach that? And we come to from that place, and not from a place of weakness and demand, but a place of strength and a place of walking in truth and reality. If those, basic needs cannot be met, then
Yeah.
then what do I do with that problem? Because that's my problem, right? What are you thinking, Diana?
Well, I think when we talk about the difference between his needs and my needs and our needs, that's a lot,
Mm-hmm,
right? And
mm-hmm,
I'm wondering, have we really even taken the time to differentiate or to notice? Just as Tamara said here, is like, I'm just recognizing that I have needs that are not being met. So
mm-hmm.
there's so many good questions we can ask ourselves in this topic. Is like I think the first thing is, to walk in core strength and to walk in core self, you have to really know yourself.
Right,
And
right.
along with that, you have to know what your needs are. And again, as you said earlier, Elise, how do we differentiate between a need and a want? And
Mm-hmm.
so, my first question to the audience would be, what are your basic needs? I mean, how do I say this differently? What are the base needs for you?
Right,
And we're talking relationship, right? So we're
right.
balancing partnership. So what are my basic needs in this partnership?
Mm-hmm,
What do
mm-hmm,
I need first and foremost?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So what would that be?
Yeah, sometimes too, when we think of needs, is kind of to be able to define it a little bit and pull it apart. Is that, can I survive without it?
Nice.
And
Yeah.
so that those very bottom needs, can I survive without air? No. Can I survive without food? No. Can I survive without water? No. Right? Can I survive without clothing? Very little. Right? At
Well,
some point.
let's ask our audience, what
Yeah.
is it that you believe you cannot survive without
Right.
in order to have a partnership? What would
Right.
that look like?
Right.
You
So
had some good suggestions. What else?
yeah.
We've got one here, respect. Thanks,
Right.
Rachel.
Yeah. Cannot survive without respect. And Rachel, you may want to, I'm going to talk about that just a second. And as we talk, you may, you know, if you add some, well, feel free to add some more around that. You know, what can I, what happens to you? And I'm going to use Rachel's name, but I want to put this out to all of us. What happens to us when we don't get respect? Like, this is the question what happens to me if I don't have trust?
There you go. These
What,
are basic.
yeah, what happens for me if I don't have safety? What does that mean for me?
You guys nailing it. Safety, truth, trust.
Right. And Julie's almost in this place of freedom, space to be myself, imperfect and in strength.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Transparency.
Hmm.
And Ashley says that it falls apart. And so we know that these things are really beautiful essentials for healthy relationships. But I want to kind of tap a little bit for us to say, what would happen to me if I didn't get respect? What would happen to me if I wasn't able to trust in the relationship? Another way to say that is, what would that mean for me? Am I willing to look at what does that mean to be in a relationship without trust?
And so Claire is saying, I shrink into nothingness.
Mm,
And I'm wondering if you could say more about that, Claire. If I don't have safety and trust, how do I shrink into nothingness? What does that mean?
right.
And Anna's saying, I was in a transactional demand relationship.
Mm.
Wow.
It ended with him having no respect for me. There was no safety,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
so, you know, I think we need to be able to identify that that's not going to be a healthy relationship. And a healthy relationship is really built on reciprocity. I love you, you love me, I care for you, you care for me. I trust you, you trust me. And this isn't just the ideal. It would, you know, it is ideal, but it's not just ideal. It's really defines healthy. And when those are not being shared, and mutuality. How do you describe mutuality, Diana? I may describe it a little bit different even than Leslie does. When you think of a mutual relationship, what comes up for you?
I think in a mutual relationship, it's really give and take. We mutually care for one another, right? So
Mhm,
I think
mhm.
on some level, there's an agreement that I'm mutually going to look out for you, care for you, respect, and it's more of a depth of feeling and behavior for one another. Uh,
Yeah,
so it's kind of like we're in this the same,
right,
know, to the
right.
same level of depth, to the same level of commitment.
Oh, I love that. I love how that's described, and that, yeah, to the same level that one doesn't end up being a giver and the other a taker, right? And that I'm not always, because that would be not mutual at all.
I like the
That's,
term mutual care, respect, and trust. And when I say care, I was just at my niece's wedding a couple weeks ago, and okay, it was a tearjerker. I'll just say that, and it was so sweet. And she wrote in her vows, like this is mutual. Okay, this is so cool. She said, "I promise to love your family as if they were my blood."
mm,
And she said, also, I promise to be careful with your heart,
mhm,
right? Um, so, her example of loving your family as if they were my blood, that's mutual, right? I don't just love my family because they're my blood. I'm going to mutually love yours. So
mhm,
we're giving to one another the
mhm,
same things that we need,
mhm,
that we desire.
mhm. Yeah. Anne says, how can I say I'm okay when my relationship is falling apart? If there is not trust and respect, how can I say I'm okay? Then does it mean I'm being insensitive? I'm happy to answer that. And here's what I don't want you to hear is that we're glib about it. I'm okay. He can, I don't need trust to be okay. I don't need honesty to be okay, right? That please don't, hear me say that. What I'm saying is kind of internally, this is, this is problematic, but it won't define me. It doesn't take away from the core or the essence of who I am. It is a grief to an experience that I'm in. It is a discouragement. It is a grief. It is a frustration. It can be problematic, but it doesn't have to destroy kind of the core of who I am.
Yeah, good.
And one of the beautiful things is we're going to be talking about this, at the Conquer conference about resilience. And so, when I am in problematic relationships or life has given me very hard, medicine, what does that mean for me? Can I still survive and even thrive in those moments? And when we've lost our sense of self, that's going to be difficult. And so, just because I'm in a difficult relationship, please, again, ladies, I hope that you hear me say, for all of us, even on the team, all of us, when we're in challenging, difficult, unhealthy relationships, we all feel that pain. Nobody is exempt from that. But does it actually destroy the essence or the core of who I am? And when it does, we can pretty much say, and I think that Diana would speak to this because we've talked about staying well, leaving well a lot, in our ministry, that it says, I can no longer stay well. So how do I take care of me?
I think that's really what we want to invite you to.
Yeah.
We want to invite you to learning what it looks like, even though things around you are falling apart and are not okay. How can I be okay in that? That's
Mhm.
really what core strength is all about.
Yes.
And learning to walk in that. And there's four key concepts for that we use for walking in core strength. But I think it's one thing to have the concepts, but it's quite another to apply that. And I think that's the question that you're asking. What does that look like?
Hmm.
How do I actually walk in being strong and being okay when things around me are falling apart? And
Right.
it takes a little bit to try that on.
Yes.
And we want to invite you to that and help you with that.
Yes.
As and if you haven't considered, we have again just a few spots left in walking in core strength, and we're not going to open any extra classes. So if that's you and you're questioning what does that really look like, come and join a group of 15 other women and a coach and
Hmm.
really walk that out.
Hmm.
um, it's easy to gain information and knowledge. It's hard to apply it. I had a couple faux pas this week. I was talking with you about it, Elise. Like, it's like I know this stuff, I teach this stuff, and yet I did this. I mean, I would have rather done this, right?
Right. Right.
I
But
got strangulated or something like
right.
that. And so
Right.
we need one another, and we need community and fellowship with one another, and
Hmm.
people who are engaged in walking out the same values and
Hmm.
principles and practices to help us get stronger. Now, thank you for not shaming me for that, Elise, and encouraging me.
No, that's not our job. It is, yeah. But yeah, I mean, and again, this is why we need friendships and this community, is to say, hey, we hear you, and maybe this is what happened. And I think that, walking in core strength, we gain greater awareness about who we are and how we show up in these places. But
Yeah.
it's still an imperfect process until until we reach eternity when we're perfected, right? And so, but we can gain knowledge, and this is these places to apply that. That's what the coaching process is about. That Leslie will do the teaching, and you will have these handouts and, this gift of teaching from Leslie, and then we will kind of step into the application of it. What does it mean to walk out truth and reality in your life when things are falling apart around us? How do I do that? How do I do that step? And so, yeah, we hope that you will join us. We're kind of almost at the half hour mark, and you and I both have to step off really hard right before 1. And so let's open it up, ladies. If you have a question, and Karen, if you'll help us out here and just kind of the question tracker, if any of you have a question, Diane and I would love to answer that question around that. The second half of this question was his needs, my needs, our needs, and I think we've talked about needs kind of enough, what that looks like, and recognizing that we do certainly have needs, but we also have desires and wants. And in James 4:1, it says, "What causes quarrels and fights among you?" He doesn't say it's the needs that you have. He says it's the desires of your heart.
Mm.
And so sometimes we, just in our own kind of American vernacular, we kind of interchange needs, wants, desires a lot. And today I hope that we can separate that a little bit for you, and that you can kind of look and say, you know what, I have a strong desire and it's a healthy desire. Or I have a strong want and it's a healthy want. It's not an unreasonable want. To be able to ask my partner. But, core strength is going to help you. This sense of self is going to help you when you don't get what you want from your partner. What will that mean? How will I learn to manage me in that disappointment and even great frustration? So, ladies, let's begin to ask some questions, and Diane and I will pick up our question tracker here, and we would love to do that. Here we go. Do you see any coming up already, Diana?
Yeah,
Any?
you want me to read them?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So if your person has little to no need relationally, is it best to just give up and find ways to meet your emotional health needs elsewhere?
Hmm. Hmm.
Never expect any change.
Well, I would almost say to this person, what's the alternative? Give up's a big word, but maybe accept, right? Accept that this person has a lot less emotional need or a lot less desire to connect than I do. And so that's a grief. I think we mourn that. Certainly, that's not why we walked into relationship. And my guess is early on in relationship, there was a lot of connection and it felt pretty yummy. Right. And so that's why we say yes and keep moving forward. And then someone doesn't, kind of continue their commitment to that. I think is a tremendous grief, no doubt. But we can't make another person want to be with us, want to connect. And so you know, the alternative is I can keep hoping and keep, kind of pressing and thinking things are going to change, or I can accept, my spouse or my loved one or whoever, it does not have the same desire for emotional connection that I do. What do I need to do with my problem? And I know that's not a fun answer, but I think it's an answer that really you can get greater solution and feel more empowered by. Okay. What's our next one? Do you want to talk around that one at all, Diana?
Um,
And you can feel differently.
the question I would ask, thanks. I guess the question I would ask is if you accepted what's not available to you with him right now, what would you do differently? If I accept that he doesn't have a need to be relational with me,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I'm just accepting that. What will that free me up to do?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and how would I meet that need to connect relationally in a healthy way as a
Mm-hmm.
married person?
Yeah, I
That's
love
all.
it. No,
Yeah.
I love that. Just the freedom that we can have
Yeah.
when we move into that. Okay. So, then what's our next question? Somehow, am I doing something wrong? Because every time, like, it doesn't stay, it always flips back up to the beginning. I've got to scroll down again.
I don't know. I can pick one.
Okay.
When you decide to give up or keep fighting for a relation, when do you decide to give up or keep fighting for a relationship regarding his versus her needs?
I think one of the things that you all will hear us so oftentimes say is, and we just really kind of answered this a little bit, is not necessarily when do you give up, but when do you step into acceptance? When do you kind of embrace this
Mm.
is this is who I married to. This is how they want to manage their life. This is how much they want to connect with you. And I'm not saying that's okay. We're just kind of saying this is the reality of it. And you get to decide how much energy and time and longevity, because that belongs to you, of how hard you want to try or plead or beg for that connection. And I mean, some of us, I mean, if, in our, sometimes we can see on Facebook that, people, would say, oh no, you need to get out quick. And it's years, months or years before for someone on the other side of that makes that decision, right? So it
Yeah.
belongs to you to make that decision. How long? And so the question, like almost flipping the question, how long do you want to wait? How hard do you want to try? What do you believe God has called you in this time season? How well can you stay?
I would add to that, when it becomes destructive for you and you get to determine how destructive it is.
Hmm.
We have some tools on our website for determining, an emotionally destructive relationship. Um, and so the question is, yeah, what's it costing me to
Hmm.
fight for this relationship? And, and what is the cost to me of my needs being neglected or trampled on? And, sometimes there are children involved. And, if it's extremely destructive for me and I can't really fulfill my, my duties and obligations as a mom as I would because I'm using all my energy and my resources to fight for this relationship, I
Right.
have some hard decisions to make.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And ladies, I think that, and we very much want to sit here in this and not make light of it in any way. But we do want to bring you to truth and reality. We're powerless to make another change.
I would always also say that we might decide to give up on a relationship, like, or on pursuing things, but we're never going to give up on that individual's
Hmm.
ability to respond to God in healing ways. If that were true, I probably wouldn't be here.
Hmm.
Um, and so that we want to keep that separate. Like, we're always going to pray for that individual. We're always going to believe God's best for them and walk in with a heart attitude of redemption toward them.
Hmm.
But that might mean right here and now I have to make some different decisions about what I'm doing logistically with that person, if that helps.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dinah, let me read this one because it applies a little bit to the second half of our question about balancing self-care and partnership.
Before you do that, I want to ask you a question
Yeah.
because I think you'd be really good at answering this. So I'm adding new material here for you.
Okay.
How do you tell the difference between what is a healthy exchange of giving up? Like we have different needs, right?
Hmm.
And I know you well, and I know a lot about your spouse, and so I thought you'd be good at answering this. Like, because I think our ladies on the call would want to know, well, isn't it natural for us to have different wants, different desires, different interests, right?
Of course. Of
And
course.
so he has a need, me, my husband has a need to go to all these concerts,
Right.
right? And I don't. Well, how do we balance that, Elise? I think you could speak to that so well.
Oh gosh. Well, I appreciate your confidence, but I think that that's challenging, no doubt. How do we balance that? And sometimes, kind of maybe even in my own relationship, my husband loves Florida football and just loves it. And he loves to watch it. He loves to go to the games. He loves everything. That doesn't, I will go at times to be with him and enjoy the weekend and everything. But that, if I went all the time, that would be a burden on me. Right. And so I don't like to have to say no, but I don't want to forbid him from doing it as well. And so there is some health in our relationship in the fact that, he won't do it all the time and press on to that. And so we do have, I think, a fairly healthy exchange. But one of the things is, kind of in that place is representing yourself well. It's not my jam. I don't really want to go. But as a mature adult and as someone who enjoys what he enjoys sometimes, right? I just enjoy
Yeah.
being with him, that I would say yes to it. And I know, you've gone to a few concerts as well that wasn't your jam, but you're willing to go. And I think that that's part of maturity and adulthood, right? I can go. It's not going to be my funnest moment, but I can go, and I delight in what something that he may enjoy. Now, let me say, I would never agree to something immoral, unethical, illegal, no matter what, right? Even if somebody, like, hey, let's go gamble or whatever, that's just, I'm going to say no to that. Um, and so I don't know, if you answer that, but I think the thing is, one of the things is that so often in the population that we work with, that when these differences come up, I don't want to go to a football game. You don't want to go to a concert, right? I don't, right? So many times when these differences come up, there's so much tension around it. And so, and some of the secret sauce to healthier relationships is, how do we manage the differences well? And every single relationships, even the healthiest, kindest, friendliest ones, have differences. Of course, they would have to. And so the best I can do is show up in my core strength to places where there's differences. And it's hard when you show up well and somebody else doesn't show up well, right? They show up aggressive or demeaning or gaslighting or unhealthy, right? But no matter how they show up, I get to decide how I'm going to show up. And this is that place where, very few relationships or everybody agrees on everything. And, if that's even possible, right? So there's always going to be a margin of difference. And sometimes the differences are really great and sometimes they're not. But how people show up in that tension there is going to matter. And you ladies get to decide how you're going to show up. And if you don't have a strong sense of self, a strong core, that you know your own beliefs, you know your own values, you know your own God, right? That you are, you're not husband centered, but God centered. You're going to have a greater capacity to show up to those differences,
Mhm.
right? And you can practice self care and you can say, you know what? I can do this, but I don't have the capacity to do that. And so, what will that mean for us?
Thanks, Elise.
Yeah,
I knew you could speak to that well.
the best I could. The best I could. So, yeah. So, ladies, what's the next question for us?
Uh, okay. How do I find a balance in my marriage and life when 7 months ago I had to call for help due to my husband's irrational behavior? Right
Mm,
now I'm separated.
mhm.
He comes around when he feels like it. He's not telling the truth to his family about what happened, so they're mad at me and they want nothing to do with me. I love him and I'm praying God will intervene, but how do I navigate so there's a couple questions here. How do I find balance?
Mhm.
How do I navigate my life during this time?
Mhm.
He's not even helping financially. I don't need his help, but I want him to be part of our commitment to be one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first, well, all three questions are good, very
Yeah.
good. The first two, I love what she said. How do I balance?
Yeah.
Right? And so, and that's, instead of looking at him, how do I get him or anything, she's really looking like, so, and so that's a great question for her to ask herself. How
Yeah.
do I balance? And one of the things that she's inserted in there is a safety issue, right? There's a little
Yeah.
bit of a safety issue. And so, I mean, anytime we have to dial 911, there's a safety issue. So that would be my first kind of saying, what do you need to do to be safe in any part of the relationship, right, with him? Like, what is it that where you don't feel safe? That would be part of balancing your self-care. Like, I need to care for myself when he gets irrational, or I need to step away, or I need to dial 911, and which you did already. And so, and then if there's this level of intensity in your home, I would really want to say, let's be sure you're kind of really lathering yourself with self-care to the best of your ability. And that may be simply that you read a book, on your own, or you take a walk and either in silence, or you listen to a podcast that brings some joy and delight. Practicing self-care can really mean a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so, but there was a part two, and you answered that. What was a part two? The second one, and she was still focused on herself, which was beautiful.
Um, let's see. How do
Um,
I navigate my life during this difficult time? That's a big question.
that is a big question. Yeah.
Um, well, you join Core Strength and you learn along with 15 other women
Uh-huh.
how to walk in the strength of who you are, along with God's help. Navigating your life honestly, one step at a time,
Mhm.
surrounded by community and support of others. And when I say support of others, I mean other people who really get what you're
Right,
going through.
right. Diana, I'm so glad you said that, because so oftentimes, we have relatives or people at the
Mhm.
church or whatever that are not helpful. And so please, either, in our Concord support, or, within, our groups or whatever, our community, we would love to continue to support you. But if not, kind of even in your own home life,
Yeah,
get great support. Yeah. And then he's not helping financially at all. And I don't need his help, but want him to be a part of our commitment to be one. I think that's that last thing. I don't need his help, and I'm grateful that you don't need his financial help, but want him. And she used the right word. I don't need him, but I want him to be a part of our commitment to be one.
yeah,
Right. And I love that. And it's a call, it's an invitation. Can we do this better? But just like any invitation, I think when I get like a, wedding invitation, there's always like, how many will attend? Will you attend? No, any invitation usually has a yes or a no when we're inviting someone to join us, right? And so can we accept their no?
yeah,
Like, we easily do this on a wedding invitation or a birthday party or something like that. We may be disappointed, but we move on pretty quickly. A whole nother story when someone who has promised they would and won't, no doubt. But I want you to think about the best that we can do is invite.
yeah,
And when someone says no, how do I manage me with that no? Now that's my problem. And that's my job to do, instead of trying to get them to manage, you know, my hopes and dreams.
yeah. And I wanna just acknowledge Catherine here in the chat who said she's joined and she's nervous. I think I'm kind of hopeful and expectant that at the end of the first session, you won't be so nervous.
No.
So
We've
what?
all been doing it a long time, and we love that first session, don't we, Diana? I mean, I
Yeah,
love 6 sessions, but
absolutely. Okay, what time do we have? We have some time for more questions.
we do, we do.
I am in a, my chair keeps disappearing behind me and then showing back up again. I'm in a very difficult relationship right now. My husband and I are not on the same page. I've been asking and needing to be regarded as
Uh-oh, Diana froze up. As his wife and my place in our marriage, but he is more concerned about his friends. His friends are more important, and now he's saying, I'm not initiating intimacy, which he needs. How can I do that when I'm hurting? And I think that's such a great question. And you are in a difficult relationship. When someone really they're turning away from you until intimacy, and then they turn towards you, and then
yeah,
they kind of feel like a filling station, like, hey, I'm not really willing to just fulfill that need, and only that need, right? And it's really actually a desire. I don't think nobody's going to die because they don't get it. They think they do, but they don't. And so you're right. And so then you're berated for not receiving intimacy. I think that these are the places that you best represent yourself and say, I would love to connect with you. I don't want to be in a sexless marriage at all. but I don't want to be in a marriage where this is the best of me, this is all you really want me for. That's not okay with me. And so if you want to be in relationship with me, I'd love to be in relationship with you. But I think you really want to be in relationship with your friends and you actually want to have a sexual partner too, right? And I think it's up to you to say, I'm not willing to be in that relationship. And until things say, hey, you want to have a friendship with me and have friends, I'm happy for you to have friends, but I'm being abandoned for your friendships. And then you only turn towards me in this place. That's not okay with me.
Uh, yeah, I'm a little bit less eloquent. He's saying that you're not in. Well, maybe I'm not. So I'm just going to be like Diana, okay? So, well, I'm not initiating intimacy because I don't feel close to you because you spend all your time with your friends. That's
Yeah.
what a woman needs. So,
Yeah.
I'm just not feeling it.
Right. Right.
If you're trying to sign up and it looks like it's available, but when you go to the page, it's sold out, that's because the transaction's going through. So that course section is closed.
Mm.
So hopefully there's another one for you. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're probably going to end up selling out
Mm-hmm.
soon, if not today. So
Right.
I want to encourage you, if you really want to do it, just take a dive and do it.
Right.
Um, all right. Have you found a difference between women and men? Oh,
Yes.
and their willingness always, and their willingness to apologize. Do women apologize too quickly? I'm just going to let Elise take this, but first I'm going to say I don't generalize like that at all, and I don't stereotype. I
Mm.
think it's individual.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be wrong to answer that and say, well, you're asking if we notice a difference, but I like to base everything on research. I don't know what the research says.
Yeah, that's a good yes, yes. And may I'm gonna, amen to that as far as like, yes, Diana definitely comes from a greater research. And I think on some level, some of our experience it seems like men don't apologize as easily. But I think again, I'm so glad Diana said that it really is individual, right? And not able to apologize is a heart issue of pride, right? That I can't admit that I'm wrong. And so it doesn't have to be gender specific.
Yeah.
We may observe that maybe it's more frequent in men than women, but that it may be just kind of the group of people that we're with or something. But again, it boils down to, because I think there's plenty of women that have a hard time apologizing as well. And it's unfortunate because when one of the things about core strength is taking responsibility for ourselves. It's the R piece, and we really hone down on that, not necessarily about an apology, but that we own our behavior, that we own what comes out of our mouth, that we're fully responsible for ourselves and to others, right? I'm not responsible for how they receive it or what they do with it, but I'm responsible for what comes out of my mouth. And so if I've said it wrong, if I did it wrong, or I did it with a really ill intent, can I own that? And can I say I'm sorry? That's a heart, that's a tender heart and a humble heart. It's a prideful heart that won't own that. So that's my answer.
Nice job.
Okay. All right. Do we have one more?
We have several more.
Okay, let's do maybe one or two, and you answer that next one. Thank you, ladies, for all these questions. And I hope that we're able to, help you in
Um,
these hard places. Okay.
So someone's asking about our program. Do we have other core strength coaching sessions in the future? We run core strength twice a year in the fall and in the spring. I'm finding it hard that they're all sold out right now. I'm not sure about that. I know I had some open on Wednesdays, but it may not be the day that works for you. I mean, as early as this morning, we had several open slots on Wednesday morning and afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So I would try clicking on all the boxes just to see.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
all right.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, it really doesn't. That Wednesday's time slot was pretty close.
I love the way you say things, and I don't know who you're speaking to, but
Mm.
I'm gonna assume it's Elise. I love the way you say things. I'm not in a destructive relationship, but need coaching. What program do you suggest?
All of them.
I think I don't know. We're
One-on-one.
people helpers. You know, we do our own work, so we're probably in groups working on our own self. So yeah, I just find someone reputable.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome to use us
Mm-hmm.
as well. We do individual coaching sessions.
Mm-hmm.
That can be found on our website.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
okay.
We'd love for you to join that. Yeah, I mean, really and truly, every one of the classes we just finished up moving beyond people pleasing this summer, which was just a blast. We did it a little differently than we normally do our structure, and I think over the summer it was really a lot of fun, and so many women joined and really enjoyed it a lot. And so, but
Mhm.
we're gonna go from kind of big group down to small group and moving in walking in core strength. And as Diana said, those were that's open 2 times a year, and then in the wintertime, we do a 6-month class, which is Empowered to Change. And then we
Mhm.
have one-on-one coaching. And then also we have Conquer, which is the membership, a monthly membership, but offers so much. It's just unbelievable, all the things that it
Mhm.
offered in Conquer. And that's going to open up in October. And so if you miss this, we still invite you to the Conquer Conference. There's so much you can be a part of. But if one-on-one is good for you, please reach out.
Do you want another question?
Let's do it.
How
Let's,
do I make, we answered that one. My
mhm,
husband told me the other day I don't respect him, yet most of what I say is dismissed and belittled. So,
mhm,
how do I show him respect when he doesn't receive the respect I show him in any form? Wow,
mhm,
that's a
mhm,
great question.
mhm,
So, what I hear you saying is that he uses the term you don't respect him. And so, my first thought to you is I would ask him to define what respect looks like.
yes.
Because you're not, I think you're thinking of two different things here.
Mhm,
What do you mean when you say I don't respect you? Give me an example of that. And my guess is that he's probably speaking about you don't shut up when I want you to shut up. You don't defer when I want you to defer, right? I mean, I'm guessing, but it could be some of those things. And yet, what most of what I say is dismissed and belittled.
mhm,
Wow. So it tells me he really doesn't know the definition of respect.
mhm,
And so, really, and again, that's what we talk about, in core strength. Is
mhm,
what does it look like to be responsible for myself and respectful to others? And I tweak that a little bit
mhm.
because I also say, what does it look like for me to be responsible and respectful to myself
Yes.
and others, right? And so it's interesting. Um, but so, you know, showing him respect is your choice.
Mhm,
It's your value.
mhm, mhm,
And not repaying
mhm,
unkindness for unkindness is very biblical and godly. So it is possible for you to continue showing him respect and standing up for yourself.
mhm,
And what that looks like, part of the coaching that we do is help you walk that out,
mhm.
give you scenarios, help you practice that. But it is possible to do. But man, you need that definition of respect. Okay, I'm going to toss the ball to Elise.
Yeah. Oh, my arms keep falling off the thing. Yeah, I think, and this can be a little bit of a dangerous question, but I would actually ask him, similar to what you said, if I were respectful, what would be different?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so again, it can be somewhat of a, and I've told you, blah, blah, blah. And so, but oftentimes they don't know. They just kind of throwing that out as kind of a bombshell, it derails the conversation. Plus, it puts all the blame and onus on you, and nothing really gets accomplished. So, I think in your strongest self, in your calmest self, being able to say, you know what, I want to hear you. Would you either define what respect is, or if I were respectful, what would I be doing different in this moment? Right. And so I think you're going to get a pretty quick cue of what he wants, and probably likely close to what Diana said. He wants to say all he wants to say. He wants you to listen to it and to do it immediately, or to do it, exactly his way. And that's the tension in all relationships. is that
Right.
there's a you and there's a me. And I have my own thoughts and he has his own thoughts, right?
Right.
And how do we do that? And if I disagree, does that mean it's disrespectful? Oh, no, right? And so we are pretty close to the top of the hour here, Diana. So one of the
Okay.
things that I would love to do, ladies, that we do each time, and is so important to us, and we believe it's important to you too, is to share with us in the chat, what was your takeaway today? As we
Mhm.
kind of talked about these wants, your own wants, what they look like, excuse me, needs and what they look like and how they kind of different from our desires and our wants. And in our questions, we could see and I could feel the desires of your heart of how you want close relationship. You want someone turning towards you and not away from you. Those
Right.
are desires. Um, and they're good and healthy desires. And they're really the desires that make marriages work and work well. It's when we force those desires on another that doesn't work. And or when our needs aren't being met, can we be okay? How do we learn to manage ourselves, when we're not going to get something from the relationship that we really either should be getting or would hope to get? So, ladies, please join us and kind of, if you haven't joined Conquer and there's any space, please, please, please get on today. I think it's going to be done after today. And so, but share with
So,
us the post.
yeah, what are your takeaways for today? What have you heard Coach Elise and I saying, or what has the Holy Spirit sparked your heart and mind with that you're going to take with you?
Ooh, I like that question. That's beautiful. Right.
Yeah, please
Um,
put it in the chat.
yeah. And so asking clarifying questions. Yeah. And that's not easy. Those are not easy. But thank you, Cherie. Yes, if we can be curious in that moment
Right.
rather than, I can't believe this is helping. And so,
Yeah. For those of you who are interested in signing up for the coaching program, we do have two sections open Wednesdays
mhm,
morning and Wednesday noon.
mhm,
So we're looking at the takeaways are I need healthy acceptance,
mhm,
define what respect looks like.
mhm, mhm.
There we go. Awesome.
Good, wonderful, beautiful. Well, Diana and I both have a session starting at 1 o'clock, so we're going to step off just 1 minute
All right.
early. And thank you all, ladies, so much for all your active participation amongst
Yeah.
yourselves and with us. It has been a treat and a delight. Monday, let me see if I have it really quick. I'd love to. Let me go back to this. How
We
come I
may,
can't? Can you
yeah.
get? Yeah, Monday it's Susan and I. Can you see the topic, Diana?
I don't know if we're going to be meeting Monday.
Oh, well, we might
Yeah.
not be, but if we
We might
are,
have a schedule change.
yeah, if we are, it'll be Susan and I at noon. And the topic is it possible to thrive in a troubled relationship? And I think you got a taste of that even today.
Mm.
Um, Thrive is tough. You have to be a strong girl, but is it possible? We'll be talking about that. So yes,
All
and
righty.
how. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining. Thank you, Diana.
Oh, you know what? I need
What?
to end our stream on Instagram. So
Okay.
give me a minute here. I don't know how to
Okay.
do that. I don't know how to do that, Elise.
I think when we end the stream, it ends it.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, go
oh
ahead
no,
and do
wait.
that. And we're going to end the stream as well. Bye bye,
Bye
ladies.
for
Thank you
now.
so much.